Hi there guys, it's Narandil here. Today we're going to be looking at Agēre verbs once again. This time we're going to be looking at the past tenses. We've already seen from the first couple of videos the present aras, I create. We then looked at the future arayasse, I will create. And today we're going to be looking at the past tense arades, I created, and past imperfect aradeones, I was creating. We call arades the first past perfect and aradeones the past imperfect. Arades is the first past perfect, but we also have the second past perfect. A verb like nanes, which means I said, is an example of this. The difference between the first and second past perfect is that the first past perfect uses the to form the past tense arades, whereas the second past perfect uses present tense endings, so es, with a separate stem. We'll get onto this more in a bit. The rule for A and B subclasses in making the past perfect and past imperfect is you take the first person present singular, aras, you cut off s, and then you add on the ending. So aras, I create, becomes arades, I created, aradeones, I was creating. Another example, ferias, you cut off the s, it becomes feria, feriades, feriadeones. You do the same thing for kobis, I feel, kobides, I felt, kobideones, I was feeling. And you do the same thing for darus in the third conjugation. Darus, I begin, darudes, I began, darudeones, I was beginning. As you'll know by now, there aren't just A and B subclasses, consonant subclasses rear their ugly head. So engeames, I buy, has the first past perfect engeandes, and the past imperfect engeantheones. The first past perfect and past imperfect will always use a broken stem, irrespective of the conjugation pattern, and consonants and vowels can displace the final sound of the stem. So engeam, the m, is displaced by n of the ending, so it's not engeamendes, it's engeandes, very similar to what we saw in the present tense. This happens differently depending on the consonant subclass that the verb belongs to, so let's run through all of them. We've already seen the nasal subclass, past perfect nves, past imperfect ntheones, where n displaces the final nasal sound of the stem. So engeandes, I bought, engeantheones, I was buying. The rhotic subclass, ul, displaces the final r of the stem. So ioltes, ioltheones. Notice here that ul becomes a lateral fricative before the and th. It becomes a voiced lateral fricative before the, so ultes, and a voiceless lateral fricative before th, so ultes, ioltes, ioltheones. Labiovelar subclass, u displaces the final v, so nareves becomes nareodes, I danced, nareodeones, I was dancing. Plosive subclass is fairly simple, you just add ves or theones to the stem. So sakes, I play, sakdes, I played, saktheones, I was playing. The fricative subclass can be split up into fricative 1, fricative 2, and fricative 3. Fricative 1 verbs like saves, I have, save is the broken stem, the v is replaced by th. So safe this, I had, safe theones, I was having. Fricative 2 verbs like valmedes, I worry, the of the stem is displaced by t, so valmethes, I worried, valmetheones, I was worrying. And finally, fricative 3 verb, we'll remember here that the stem ends in a vowel. Essentially what you do is you lengthen that vowel before adding ves and theones. Les, I join, has the stem le, that becomes leves, I joined, le theones, I was joining. And finally we have the sibilant subclass, where the s of the stem is displaced by t, so lasse, I grind, has the stem las, which becomes latves, I ground, lattheones, I was grinding. Now we can move on to the difference between the first and the second past perfect. So you'll see that the first past perfect is made by taking the present stem and adding the first past perfect endings. So aras has the stem ara, you add ves to create arades, I created, aradeones, I was creating, right? But for the second past perfect, you use a past perfect stem plus present endings. So the verb keoris, I speak, has a second past perfect, kukeoris, I spoke, as opposed to keorides, which is what you would expect. You take keoris, you chop off s, and then you add ves. Keoris would become keorides, but it doesn't in the circumstance. It is kukeoris, and you'll note there that they have the same endings. They have two A conjugation endings, they just have a different stem. This only happens for the past perfect, this doesn't happen for the past imperfect. So keoris still forms its past imperfect in the same way that other verbs of the second conjugation A or B subclasses would. Keoris, cut off the S at the end, and add theones, keori theones, I was speaking. These are the first past perfect endings, so if we take aras, aradote, to have created, arades, I created, arade, you created, arade, he, she, it created, aradason, we created, aradavon, you all created, aradeso, they created. The past imperfect endings, aradeonte, to have been creating, aradeones, I was creating, aradune, you were creating, aradune, he, she, it was creating, aradunason, we were creating, aradunavon, you all were creating, and araduneso, they were creating. We should also perhaps point out how to create the past tense infinitive. For A and B subclasses, you take the present infinitive and add ote. So arav, to create, becomes aradote, to have created. Fereav, to kill, fereadote, to have killed. Georiv, to speak, georidote, to have spoken. For the consonant subclasses, you take the present infinitive and you add ote, but the o displaces the final vowel of the present infinitive. Engeante, to buy, engeantote, to have bought. Narelte, to dance, nareutote, to have danced. Ialle, to brood, iallote, to have brooded. And finally, latte, to grind, lattote, to have ground. That's all for past tenses. In the next video, we are going to be looking at taking our present, future, and variety of past tenses and making them negative. So, look forward to seeing you then.